Hello and welcome to Destination Draft Day, your one-stop shop for all things college football, NFL draft, and NFL. We had a tremendous weekend of both college football and NFL play. We're here to talk about it all. Nick Durst by my side, Michael Rochman, and myself. We hope that everyone had a great weekend, and we hope that we can provide a decent mid-Monday show for you to get you through the day. But first and foremost, Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. We have a lot to cover today. We will not be on this Friday, unfortunately. So we'll be recapping this crazy weekend and looking ahead to the next. And I think I want to start off by talking about the 49ers losing to the Seahawks, which we predicted here on this show. And for all those calling for Trey Lance, well, now it looks like you're going to say it. Jimmy Garoppolo going to be out a few weeks with a pretty nasty calf injury. So what does this mean for the 49ers? Well, I think it means they're going to definitely lose next week, taking on the best team in the NFL, the Cardinals, who did exactly what I said they were going to do. Statement win, go in there, beat the heck out of the Rams, show them why they're the best, why they are the best team in the National Football League, or at least the NFC at this point. Wild stuff there in the NFC West. And right now, looks like the Cardinals are going to be in first. 49ers are going to be in the basement, and the Rams and Seahawks will be fighting for that wild card at this point. So your thoughts on the NFC West, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely crazy games. Cardinals really showed themselves. And, I mean, I was very of the opinion that the Cardinals were going to be this team that kind of finished third or fourth and weren't really as legit as a lot of people were thinking. And, you know, they're making me look like an idiot. They really just showed everything. The defense has really gotten it going. I know the secondary still has its issues, but with the front seven that they have really put together, it makes the job of the corners a lot easier. Kyler Murray, clear front runner for MVP right now, just an absolute stud, making plays left and right. AJ Green kind of turned back the clock a little bit. Deandre Hopkins, obviously one of the best receivers in the NFL. And even the run game has gotten going. I mean, Chase Edmonds, 12 carries for 120 yards. A lot of the touchdown production went to James Conner, so maybe a little bit of a headache for fantasy users. But strictly NFL, you know, Chase Edmonds looks like a stud. This Cardinals offense is moving. The front seven is absolutely killing it. I mean, it's tough not to see the Cardinals really taking this division. And then, you know, these other teams, obviously the Rams are still very much a legit contender. Seahawks got a much-needed victory against the 49ers, and the 49ers up in the air question mark now with Trey Lance in at QB. We'll see how he does, but, I mean, this is shaping up to be a very talented division no matter who is in fourth and no matter who's in first. I think it's still going to be very close for the difference between those teams.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. All right, we'll just talk about the big game right off the bat. Crazy weather last night, and the Bucs hang on to win. Antonio Brown had the big drop. Patriots come down, missed the two-pointer. Missed the kick at the end because of the crazy weather. Listen, the Patriots defense is good. I mean, as good as it gets right now if you're able to stop that high-powered Bucs offense. But the Bucs, I think, are going to struggle a little bit here because you saw it last week. Gronkowski is the key, actually, to this offense, I think. And kudos to Rob, because how tough is this guy to come back in the game last week with 4 broken ribs and a punctured lung? I mean, that's insane that he even came back in the game. But he's going to be out, I would say at least till Thanksgiving at this point. I mean, that's pretty gruesome injury. So I think the Bucs are going to struggle here a bit. Panthers, they lost yesterday big time to the Cowboys. So I don't think the Panthers could maybe run away with this division. But, we all thought maybe the Bucs are going to go, 14, 15, 16 wins. Maybe not the case. They're going to struggle a bit without Gronkowski. But if they can get him back for the postseason, I think they'll be in good shape. But Gronkowski is key. I would have loved to see him play in New England. But the offense is much different without him there. And that's really, because his blocking is incredible and also because he is the guy that Brady's looking for on third down or in the red zone.
Yeah, and I think that the offense can certainly overcome those issues, but the defense is really where my biggest concern is for the Bucs. With the injuries in the secondary, Carlton Davis even going down last night. Sherman, he's fine, but he's not the same of what he once was, and he's not really the best man coverage type corner, so he's going to kind of have to fit in and kind of make things work. But this secondary is not what it is, or what it truly is when healthy. So that's the big issue for me. I think this defense is kind of exploitable at times, and that creates issues. Still very promising performance overall for the Bucs to go into New England and get a victory. It's never going to be easy. I thought it would be a little bit easier, and I guess I'm a fool for that. But yeah, I mean, still, just overall, the Bucs got to win, and you'd rather win sloppy than lose.
Yeah, certainly there. And again, they're gonna win a lot of games. It's all about for them being healthy coming into the playoffs. But the 1 seed is going to be really important, and that's certainly going to keep an eye on. But the next 3 weeks, Dolphins, who look like a mess right now, Eagles, who are a mess, the Bears, who get their first win, but they're going to keep rolling right now for the time being. But it's something to keep an eye on to see when Gronkowski's going to come back, because it's a very different offense. Okay, we gotta. You said it could happen. I said no shot. But the Giants, they go to New Orleans, they win, and if we were doing Rochman's third-year players of the week, you got to put Saquon Barkley on here because he was incredible. 56-yard touchdown reception, game-winning touchdown in overtime. Jason Garrett's playing for the tie in the fourth quarter instead of going for it, which was crazy to the 3 weeks in a row, but it worked out. So the bottom line in this game is that Barkley he's back, he's healthy, and he's showing why maybe he's the best running back in the National Football League right now.
Yeah, I mean, he really put things together this week. He showed up big time for the Giants. The Giants have issues on the team, obviously, and I don't think they're, turning the ship or anything, but I do think that this is a huge victory for them. Getting Saquon back and healthy, getting him involved is huge. Kadarius Toney had a very strong week. Almost made it on Rockman's Rookies of the Week. Sadly, just missed out. Honorable mention for him, though, especially after all the hate he was getting early on just because he wasn't getting much opportunity. So great game overall offensively. Defense, obviously with Martinez out, there's still some issues there. But I think they're on the right path. The Giants are definitely looking a little bit better than what looked like pure chaos.
Yeah, good win for them. And then, speaking of Rockets Rookies of the Week, let's give it up for Zack Wilson, who I'm sure we might see on the list real soon today, later on the show, because this guy is a warrior, battling all game. The Jets finally got their first lead of the season where they were up 10-9, and they come storming back to win 27-24 at overtime. Obviously, they got a lucky break there that the Titans receiver dropped the ball in overtime and they missed the field goal. But kudos to Zack Wilson. I was very impressed by him yesterday, and I have been all season.
Yeah, I mean, this was a great victory for the Jets. I think it's a small indication that things are going to be looking a little bit better. There's going to be games where the Jets still look awful, but having this victory against the Titans, going to play a team like Atlanta next week, which is very beatable, not going to provide a lot of pressure in terms of defensive talent on your offense. It's a very nice step forward. That game against the Patriots, I think, yes, the Patriots defense is going to be very strong, but with 2 good weeks, you can sort of build momentum to get going a little bit, to keep yourself afloat. And really then after that, I think things will get a little bit better for the Jets. Will they be the number 1 pick? Maybe. I mean, there's certainly a chance. But at the same time, I think you're at least starting to see signs of what the future of the Jets is, and that looks promising. So that's all you can really ask for as a Jets fan. Oh, you got muted somehow.
Other games to talk about as far as rookie quarterbacks are concerned is the Bears get their first win. They beat the second win of the season, rather. The first win there as a starter for Justin Fields. he played okay, 209 yards and an interception. More so in this, like the Lions just did everything they could to lose. I mean, Goff throws for 299, 2 touchdowns, and they still can't win the game. The Lions, I think, are going to be looking at the first pick of the draft.
Yeah, the Lions are in a weird situation because I feel like there's plenty of talent on this team. I feel like the offense actually has a pretty decent squad. Obviously, wide receiver could use some help, but there's plenty of solid pieces on this roster. Defense, that's where the issue starts to come up, especially with Okudah getting hurt, some of the other issues around the roster. But yeah, I mean, I didn't expect them to really be starting out 0-4. I thought they were going to steal a win somewhere in this group, but I still expect them to kind of get things going. I do think Goff is a starter caliber type of QB, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's just right now, definitely some major issues for the Lions defense.
Yeah, and I think they're going to be, if they're in the top 5, they're probably going to take a quarterback. But I think Jared Goff's playing well, so I wouldn't blame him. That's for sure. It's more so the rest of the team. The Colts get a much needed win against the Dolphins. Dolphins are 1-3 now. Colts now 1-3. Not ideal for either team that had high playoff expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Dolphins just didn't get going offensively right away with Tua, and then now the Tua injury just kind of stalls things even further. What was a team that I feel like had a little bit of hope now really kind of slides into this photo of what's going to happen. I've heard rumors and speculation that they are going to make the trade for Deshaun Watson, and the Texans are trying to push it off until the trade deadline. I don't know how legitimate that is. It's just something I read, so I wouldn't say go and tell all your friends about this. But I think right now, with everything we've seen, that is absolutely the right move for the Dolphins from a talent standpoint. I think Deshaun brings another level to this offense that could really open things up and help this team kind of elevate themselves from what is a fringe playoff team to probably a contender.
Certainly there, agree with you on that. Vikings, close game. We knew it was going to be close. They lose 14-7. Good job by the Vikings defense overall, but not much offense in this one. But ultimately, it was the Browns who come away with victory. And the Browns right now, they're trying to make a claim that they are the best team in the AFC.
Yeah, and it was a strange game. Both QBs played well under their usual play, which was strange. Also, just Dalvin Cook didn't get involved very much. And I know that he's coming off injury and you want to keep him healthy. But in a game that's as close as it was, you would expect them to kind of want to put the ball on the ground more just to really kind of see how well they can kind of use that identity that they have. And it just wasn't working. They weren't using it very often. Dalvin Cook, 9 carries. Alexander Mattison, 10 carries. So never really had a huge workload to get going. And I think that could potentially play into it. Vikings, though, it's definitely a tough start to the schedule in terms of talent. Even the Bengals in week 1 have really kind of proven themselves as a decent squad at the very least. Cardinals week 2, obviously one of the best teams in the NFL right now. Seahawks and Browns. So things should get a little easier. They go play the Lions next week, which they should win. You look around, Panthers aren't necessarily unbeatable, but that's going to be a good one. Cowboys, Ravens, Chargers. This is a tough schedule for the Vikings. And I know a lot of people believe they're going to be a playoff team, or at least they did preseason. But this is where you kind of have to prove yourself. You have to be able to overcome some of these tougher teams. And right now, the Vikings have failed to do so.
Rick wants to know if Houston gets the pre-lawsuit price for Watson, especially since Goodell can literally be like, nope, exception list. I don't think so. It's very risky. But the bigger question is, why has Goodell and the NFL just been silent? Like, say something. I mean, I just don't get it. I really don't understand it, Michael.
Yeah, it's a horribly mismanaged situation because the only reason that they don't have to make a decision is because, Deshaun Watson doesn't want to play for the Texans, but they should still have something saying, like, look, this is what Deshaun Watson is going to have to go through. Whether you're saying oh, he's out until we make a decision, or whether you're saying he can play, but the decision will be coming and, he could be suspended right away. They need to make something happen because, really, it's just kind of poorly handled, and they're just kind of getting away with it because of the fact that Deshaun Watson doesn't plan on playing for Houston.
So, what's the deal? Is he going to the facility? Is he active? I'm assuming he's getting paid, so I don't know why. If I'm the Texans, I'm kind of saying, to the NFL, suspend him or something, because this is eating up cap space.
Yeah, I believe he's been at the facilities, but just doesn't plan on playing. I'm not 100% certain, though. Definitely a weird situation all around, and one that I don't even know when the end's going to come to it. You'd think either this offseason or this trade deadline, but who knows?
Yeah, too risky a trade for him, I think, with all the uncertainty. Bengals, they're looking good now in the AFC North. They're right up there with the Ravens, who get a big win against the Broncos, 3-1. So they're all hanging tough right now with the Browns, but I know the Steelers look done, Michael. I'm thinking this Najee Harris pick was the wrong way to go for the Steelers, because it looks like they just have so many needs, and Harris is he's running the ball 15 times to get a touchdown, but I just don't really know what's going on there, and it looks like the end is near for Big Ben.
Yeah, I think Najee Harris was an interesting situation. I believe that it was probably the wrong pick, not necessarily because of the talent level, but because this team has so many holes that you're going to spend a few years rebuilding. And then by that time, you're kind of nearing the end of your running back's main cycle of dominant play. And that's really the big issue when it comes to building a team, is trying to maximize these windows. Let's say you draft a QB this year in the offseason, and then he takes 2 years to kind of get to his play to where he can be a contending level QB. You still have to fix up the O-line over these next 2 years in the draft. You still have to get pieces on the defense that are going to replace some of your aging veterans. There's just so many things that need to be done. And by the time the Steelers can kind of rebuild this, retool it, whatever, to become a contender, Najee is going to be 2-3 years in, nearing the end of his contract. And then you're going to have the issue of, well, do we pay Najee because he's a great running back for us and, limit the rest of our roster, or do we just let him walk? So that's kind of the big issue when it comes to drafting running backs, is trying to draft a running back that fits your window. So, yeah, I think Najee, talent-wise, fine pick, worked out. I think he's good. But overall, team picture-wise, I think there was an issue with the selection.
Yeah, I think if Ben retires after this season, the Steelers should look to sign Mitch Trubisky, who I think would be a natural fit, in the sense of he could do a lot of the same things Ben did back in the day. And I don't think the Steelers are going to be in the so bad that they're picking in the top 6. So if you're in that 10 to 20 range, it's tough to get your franchise quarterback there. So we'll see what they ultimately do. But listen, the Packers, they're showing no signs of that 1 loss. They're rolling now. No surprise there. Chiefs bounce back with a win over the Eagles, but get up 30 points. Not exactly what they wanted with this Chiefs defense, but they win with offense, which they can. We mentioned the Cowboys. They win, and the Bills, they look like the best offense in the league at this point, putting up 40 again, shutting out the Texans. Defense looks good. Josh Allen looks good, of course. And I'm really liking my Bills going to the Super Bowl pick at this point.
Yeah, if I had to pick an AFC team right now, I would probably go with Buffalo. I really like the offense. I think the running game has gotten going a little bit. Stephon Diggs, one of the best wide receivers. Emmanuel Sanders, great number 2 with Cole Beasley in the slot. And the defense, they have a tremendous rotation on the defensive line, which is huge in terms of just, success in terms of getting to the passer. If you have a defensive line that can go and rotate 3 guys in at a position, then it keeps the entire defensive line fresh, and it really creates chaos for offensive lines. We saw that with the Philadelphia Eagles back in the day when they were able to have pieces like Brandon Graham, Vinnie Curry, Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat. They were able to have pieces on the defensive line to create chaos and it was huge. So yeah, I think as we look at the Bills, they have that kind of recipe with, I think, more offensive firepower. And assuming things stay healthy, things continue on this ship, then I think Bills have a very good chance to make it to the Super Bowl and even potentially win.
Yeah. Could you imagine the AFC championship game in Buffalo? I mean, the Bills Mafia would just be going through so much lumber with the amount of tables they'd be setting on fire and jumping through. I'd love to see it. I think we'll just because we're gonna preview next week later on the show. So let's just talk Monday Night Football right now. Huge game, Raiders, Chargers. Winner of this game, first place team. I'm gonna go with Herbert and the Chargers here because they are home. I do think the Raiders are legit, but I think the Chargers will be a little too much here tonight, given the home field advantage.
Yeah, I think I also lean Chargers in this one. I think the Raiders have shown a lot, and I don't necessarily think that this is just, the Chargers are a better team, but I think the Chargers take this one. Raiders undefeated right now. Chargers have that loss. I think that kind of leads a little bit with the Chargers sort of needing this one more. And that seems to play into a lot of these NFL games, especially early where narratives kind of control it. But yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. I'm really excited to check it out because both these teams are legitimate contenders to be in the playoff picture when it comes down to it. So looking forward to seeing this one. And, both Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, very exciting QBs. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Now it's time for everyone's favorite segment. We gave some spoilers earlier, but let's see the official Rochman's Rookies of the Week.
So for Rochman's Rookies of the Week, first we're talking about Zack Wilson, and he absolutely put up a great performance against the Tennessee Titans, 21 for 34, 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Look, this guy was just doing it all for the Jets, and I really think that he's shown plenty of promising play. Even when he's getting pressured like crazy, he's putting out some decent balls. I think as the season goes on, as they sort of get things handled, established, the Jets are going to get going a little bit better offensively, but Zack Wilson has shown some very promising signs as a quarterback that I think should lead Jets to have some confidence for what this future is going forward. The next person on this list is Mac Jones, and I understand that a lot of the game was just very short passes, trying to keep things handled, very conservative offense, but 31 for 40, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He did very well, especially in a game where the pressure could very easily be too much for someone. Going against this former QB that's just impossible to match in Tom Brady, Mac Jones really put together a very solid performance, kept the Patriots in it, really took them down the field to win it, and then, missed field goal, whatever, but still a very good game for Mac Jones, very promising sign going forward. The Bucs defense, despite all the injuries, is still difficult to pass on. And he had a pretty good game. I understand that the offense needs to open up if the Patriots plan to take that next step as a team. But still, for what he's tasked with doing, Mac Jones had a very strong game. The next player on this list is wide receiver Devonta Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles. 7 receptions, 122 yards, a very strong showing against the Chiefs. Jalen Hurts has really done a lot as a QB, and I think it's impressive how well he's proven himself. But Devonta Smith really has an opportunity to be his main target, and I love what he's done so far. A lot of people were concerned about his immediate entry into the NFL just because of his frame, size, and that, adjustment that happens. But he has taken it in full stride, really shown some promising play. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do just with more years and experience under his belt. But right now, even, he looks like a stud, and I'm really enjoying what he does in Philadelphia. I hope this continues. Him and Hurts are a very fun duo, and I think Devonta Smith could continue going up from here. The next player on this list is Joe Tryon. 2 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and 4 quarterback hits. He was providing pressure all night on Mac Jones. He's an absolute stud. The Bucs had a huge luxury entering this draft with their first-round pick that they didn't have to force pick any position because they really could go with whoever they felt was the top add of talent and top add of value to their team. Joe Tryon, in a rotation that already has Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul, is absolutely huge. Tryon, obviously, with a huge game against the Patriots, who have had a pretty good offensive line. It's been a little bit inconsistent this year, and Tryon obviously exposed it a little bit, but getting those sacks wasn't easy, and Tryon was able to put together a dominant performance in order to really shine. And for the Buccaneers, they are absolutely loving having this guy on roster. And the next rookie of the week is someone who is also down on the edge now, Micah Parsons, coming from linebacker to defensive end, and really prove that he can do whatever, and he'll be fine for the Cowboys. 4 tackles, 1 sack, a tackle for loss, and a QB hit. And again, moving positions is never easy in the NFL, even if you're just moving inside the guard or on the opposite side of the line at the same position. But for Micah Parsons to drop down from linebacker, which he's played almost all his life, to defensive end, it's absolutely huge. Parsons is a complete stud, can play anywhere in a defense. That versatility, whether it's at defensive end, whether it's at edge, or whether it's at linebacker, whatever, he's going to be a star for the Cowboys, and having a player like him is absolutely huge for the long-term future of this Cowboys defense, which has really elevated his play compared to last season.
And I will note that this will be like one of the very few weeks that Asante Samuel Jr. is not on this list. That's only because he's playing this evening. So did not make it into qualifying time. He's, I think, the front runner at this point still for Defensive Rookie of the Year. We also have a first-time thing here. We have 5 people on the list with all numbers 11 or lower. So interesting things to keep note of here, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. The number change has really elevated the game of football, and it's revolutionized Rochman's Rookies of the Week.
No doubt about it. All right, moving on here. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, I was just going to say, so as much as we want to talk about the NFL, there were some also tremendous games in college football. One of the big ones, I think, is Georgia just putting a stomping on Arkansas, 37-0, really shut down Arkansas's offense, which has gotten some momentum over the past few years. Stetson Bennett in at QB for Georgia Bulldogs, and they were still able to overcome Oregon, obviously getting upset by Stanford. Nick, in your opinion, is this a 2-team race in college football between Alabama and Georgia?
I mean, on paper, right now, I mean, you have to say that is the case. However, I think maybe this is a little extreme to say this. I think you got to consider Penn State as very legit. I think they have a real shot.
Interesting. Yeah, I think, Penn State, Iowa, 2 very solid teams. Oklahoma could obviously turn around in a second. I know they've been struggling, but they're still undefeated. And, there's some question marks about the G5 as a whole, but Cincinnati looks very much legit. They've been able to control all the games that they've been tasked with, and now should very well, finish out this year undefeated, in my opinion. Obviously, it won't be easy. Games like SMU, games like Navy, UCF, Tulane, whatever. But this is a very good Cincinnati squad that I think has a chance to be in that playoff picture. Probably one of the first times that we've seen the G5 get in there, I believe. But I think they're absolutely deserving, especially with all the chaos going around college football, where teams are falling out of the picture just with self-inflicted wounds to their resume.
Yeah, that's been the story all year, the self-inflicted wounds. We could really, basically we could probably pen in Alabama and Georgia right now for the college football playoff. Doesn't matter who wins the SEC, the other is going to get there as long as their only loss is to the other team. Then it's a question of how do they do the seeding. I would assume they would make it so that they're not playing Georgia and Alabama back-to-back weeks. But technically, if they go on by record, which they should, then one team should be the 1 team should be the 4. We'll see how they explain that. Because as I mentioned, I think Penn State, I think they can go undefeated and win the Big Ten. I think Iowa can go undefeated and win the Big Ten. And I also think Michigan could go undefeated and win the Big Ten. So if there's an undefeated Big Ten team, they have to be the 2 seed. I don't care what you say there. And then I guess the scenario would be, is Oklahoma, if they go undefeated, are they going to be the 4 seed so that, let's say, Georgia could be the 3 seed? I don't know. That'd be interesting. If it's Cincinnati that gets in, then they'll be the 4 seed. They'll have to play Alabama right away. That's, the scenarios we're looking at right now. It'd be interesting to see how the college football playoff committee would explain their seedings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's important is the clarity that we'll get across the season. We'll probably see some more upsets. There's some forced losses. I mean, Iowa, Penn State play this weekend, so we'll get to really gain some clarity in the Big Ten on who the top team is. Obviously Michigan's still undefeated, but I think right now the consensus is Iowa and Penn State are those top 2 teams. I think Michigan is better than Penn State, in my opinion. Michigan-Iowa, though, is one that I'm very curious to see what will happen there. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen because this feels like a fresh kind of year. I like Clemson, but it's nice to see some new teams in this college football picture. Obviously, we still got Alabama. Georgia's not necessarily new, but it's interesting to see a newish type of field. It's not just Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and then, whatever.
What do you think? Let's say Oklahoma loses in the regular season, which I think they can. And, we'll see with Cincinnati. But do you think it's possible that a 1-loss Big Ten team could get in along with the Big Ten winner? We have just a Big Ten SEC college football playoff.
I think what would have to happen is those undefeated teams would have to fall. And really that kind of opens the door for other 1-loss teams, I guess. It's far away to kind of say, oh, it could happen. But, if let's say Ohio State goes and wins the playoff or something, but Iowa is also sitting at 12-1 or something, and it was a very close game, then possibly, let's say Oregon, though, finishes out 11-1 and wins the Pac-12, then they're going to get in. Or let's say even Oklahoma, sorry, I keep saying let's say, but imagine they lose to Texas next week, but then finish out and really wake up and they go win the Big 12, then they're probably in. So it's tough to imagine a 2-conference playoff just because of how limited the field is. But if enough chaos happens, then I could see a strong case for it.
Certainly. And then I guess, I'll just leave with this, which is Arizona State. Now they get a legit chance to win the Pac-12.
Absolutely huge victory for them against a UCLA team that seems to be faltering a little bit. I believe that's 2 losses in a row for the Bruins now after what was a strong start. Oh, sorry. They lost to Fresno, beat Stanford, then lost to Arizona State. So going to be very interesting to see how the Bruins bounce back from this if they do. Arizona State, though, in the driver's seat, Herm Edwards, getting things going in the Pac-12. Oregon, still very much a tough team. I think they still have a very good shot at winning the conference, but Arizona State now has control to at least get into that Pac-12 championship game, and I believe that from there, anything can happen. We've seen chaos in that Pac-12 championship game, I think, almost every year for the past 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah. And in the Big 12, we had a very rare, low-scoring game. Oklahoma State remained undefeated. They beat Baylor 24-14. I like Oklahoma State, Michael. I think they actually have a really good shot of knocking off Oklahoma this year.
Yeah, they have a huge test coming against Texas next week after Texas has to play Oklahoma, which is huge for Oklahoma State because they have a bye week this week. So really a tremendous opportunity for them. Texas obviously has a tremendous opportunity to kind of get back into the picture if they are able to win this game against Oklahoma, then win against Oklahoma State. Then it'd be hard to, say, oh, Texas already lost that game to Arkansas. They're out of the picture. And, obviously things change by a week and things change by a month in college football. But right now, Texas has a 2-game slate that's huge for them. Oklahoma State has this Texas game and then Iowa State. So, there's a lot of opportunities to kind of prove yourself if you're a Big 12 team. And if you can do so, then, nothing's out of the picture yet. And opportunity is really all you need in college football to get into that next level, which is, playoff or major bowl game.
So what key games and players are you keeping an eye on this weekend?
Yeah, so 3 games that really come to mind. There's plenty more that I could talk about, but Oklahoma versus Texas in the Red River rivalry, I think, has to be the first game to discuss. Spencer Rattler is in for a huge matchup because we haven't seen Spencer Rattler dominate with, the performances like he has into the past. This season, he's just been subpar, and that's not what Spencer Rattler is as a passer. Had a strong game against Kansas State. Really came out and showed some promise, but still threw an interception. He needs to limit the turnovers. He needs to really kind of wake up and really turn on the switch. The QB1 battle that is happening this year is extreme because there's no clear-cut top player in this quarterback class. So Spencer Rattler is still very much in the picture. I know a lot of people have sort of dropped him off because of the issues that he's had on field. He's still my QB1. But I think consensus-wise, he's falling a little bit. But a strong game here and a strong turnaround, he's very easily back into that picture and could very easily be that number 1 QB taken off the board. He needs to start here, though. Texas is a strong defense with some very good players. Deshaun Jameson, Anthony Cook, Chris Adamora in the secondary, B.J. Foster. There's so many pieces that he needs to find a way to make it work. And he has the pieces, Marvin Mims, Mike Woods, there's plenty of talent all around to succeed in the passing game, but he needs to really take that next step, take the Sooners offense under control, and really sort of wake up as a prospect because the talent is there. It's just not production, and that's the issue. Next player to watch is David Wegboo, the linebacker for Oklahoma. He has been a strong run defender, and I think, stopping Bijan Robinson is bigger than anything right now for Oklahoma Sooners. The offensive line has had its issues. Christian Jones has really struggled on the outside for the Texas Longhorns. Denzel Okafor goes down with an injury, but Andre Carrick stepped in at right tackle while Kurt Sutter went over to left guard. If the Oklahoma Sooners can take advantage and really slow down Bijan Robinson, then you are going to have a huge advantage in this game. Perion Winfrey is also someone that could very easily be listed. Nick Benito. Isaiah Thomas, Oklahoma Sooners has to capitalize on their strong front seven and really slow down Bijan Robinson if they want to control this game. Because right now, honestly, I would say Bijan Robinson probably has one of the strongest cases for Heisman. And he has just overachieved in the backfield, and it has created a dominant play on his side. But if you can slow that down, if you can limit the production out of Robinson, out of this Texas backfield, then Oklahoma should control this game fairly easily. The last player to watch is Anthony Cook, who had a tremendous game against TCU and has had a quiet but yet very talented season. Going against Treylon Burks in the Arkansas game, he was one of the lone bright spots for the defense. And, last game against TCU, he was able to put up a game with 8 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, forced a fumble, recovered it as well. Just an absolute dominant performance. Anthony Cook was fighting for a starting job when the season started out, but out of camp, people were talking about him left and right as someone that really has shined through, and now he's become one of the best players on this defense. Keep an eye out for him going against a very talented Oklahoma wide receiver group. Anthony Cook could be someone that's rising up draft boards. The next game to keep an eye on is Ole Miss versus Arkansas, 2 teams that are coming off of a beating that they were not looking forward to at all, but 2 teams that very much are looking to stay in the top 25, stay in the picture in terms of top teams in the SEC, and both teams have a lot to prove in this game. Ole Miss, I think there's plenty of narratives behind this. Matt Corral last year had a horrific game when it came to Ole Miss. You look around at what the prove-it point of his career is going into the season because of what we saw last year, and you want to see him sort of overcome those issues. 6 interceptions last year against Arkansas in what was a total of 12 interceptions over the season, 13 last year. So he had almost 50% of his interceptions last year against Arkansas. He has to prove that he is this new quarterback that has fixed his turnover issues. And even if he throws an interception in this game, he needs to find a way to carry on confidence to where he doesn't continue to build on those turnovers, because that's kind of been the thing about Corral. He hasn't thrown an interception this year. So a lot of people are saying, oh, he's been a stud. He's QB1. The tools were never the question. The issue is, can he bounce back from those mistakes? Can he have that short-term memory? And right now we haven't gotten the chance to see that. I love Matt Corral as a prospect, but I want to see him throw an interception because I want to see how he bounces back from that. I want to see how he responds to the adversity. Against Alabama, it felt like he was almost sort of protected. Very limited throws, very quick throws that were almost just trying to make sure his stat line looked okay at the end of it. They got blown out. Matt Corral didn't do enough. And, that's fine. Alabama's a great team. It doesn't necessarily dismiss him as a prospect. But against Arkansas, he has to step up and be a star. And right now, this is a huge prove-it game because of the history that comes with it. Another player to watch is Trey Williams, who's been huge for Arkansas's defensive line. He is really putting up a great season so far, 5 sacks on the year. Arkansas really didn't get a lot going in terms of slowing down the Bulldogs, but for Trey Williams, 4 sacks on the year, 4.5 tackles for loss. He really needs to get going against Ole Miss to slow down Matt Corral, really create chaos in this passing game. And, he's able to do that. I think he continues to build on a strong resume as a sleeper edge rusher in this class. And the last player to watch for this game is Chance Campbell, linebacker out of Ole Miss. Really put up a strong season so far. Has sort of had some attention across college football and the NFL draft community just because of how well he's played, both at his time at Maryland and now at Ole Miss. But, he's been an absolute stud. Racked up 10 tackles just last week, put up some sacks in the past 2 games. Chance Campbell is a very reliable linebacker in a linebacker class that's still kind of looking for pieces to sort of get everything adjusted and sorted out. So keep an eye on Chance Campbell in this one. With a run game as strong as Arkansas's, it's a great game for him to prove himself, and I believe he will. And the final game, we already talked about a little bit, but Iowa versus Penn State, the battle of the undefeateds, 3 versus 4 in the Big Ten, 2 of the top teams. I'm very excited for this one, Nick. I'm sure you are as well. 4 players to watch. Tyler Goodson, running back for Iowa, really is the star of the show when it comes to the Hawkeyes. A very talented runner that really kind of gets this offense going. Spencer Petras is a solid quarterback, and Laporta at tight end is very good. But I think this offense, the recipe for success is Tyler Goodson getting going, and he absolutely needs to do that if they want to pull a win against the Nittany Lions. Next player to watch is Jahan Dotson, wide receiver from the Penn State Nittany Lions. He is an absolute stud. Really sort of a guy that I've kind of said, oh, he's probably going to be a second, third round pick because he's a slot receiver. But, man, every week he just shows out and just dominates in ways that make me think he could potentially really take that next step in the draft community and sort of get a lot more love. 5'11", 184, so he's not necessarily limited to slot. It's just a lot of his experience comes out of that position. Dotson, though, just continues to be the go-to guy for this offense in a passing game. He has yet to have a game without a touchdown. Put up 2 last week against Indiana. He's been the go-to guy for Clifford. Against Iowa, who has a very good secondary with Matt Hankins, with Dane Belton, with Riley Moss, this is going to be a huge game for him. And I believe he's going to step up and continue his success. We'll see if that results in a Penn State win. And last player to watch is Dane Belton, a very talented, versatile defensive back for the Iowa State Hawkeyes. I think he's going to be the guy that gets the Jahan Dotson assignment. And, that matchup all game is going to be exciting to watch. Dotson's probably going to find some success. But if Dane Belton can find ways to quiet Dotson at times, keep him uninvolved as much as possible, then Iowa comes away with this game. And I really think that they will, whenever it's all said and done, be the team that remains unbeaten in the Big Ten between these two.
I think this game is actually going to be good. I think we're looking at an overtime here, so it's going to be a good one. And despite their ranking and their record, people still don't think of Iowa as like a legit program who could win a championship. But this would be a tremendous win because no one else is going to have a win over a number 4 team on their resume if they end up going here towards the end of the season. So big game here for both teams, and it's gonna be very interesting to see, in the coming weeks here when we have Michigan State as well, and see how that all plays out, because I think all four of those teams are very good this season.
Absolutely. I think this is huge for the picture, but even with the Big Ten, there's still plenty of teams involved. I'm excited for it. Some other games I think are worth mentioning. Maryland versus Ohio State, I think, is going to be one that's closer than a lot of people expect. Maryland coming off of a beatdown against Iowa definitely has a lot to prove. And then Ohio State has had their struggles all year. I think this is going to be a good one. Raheem Jarrett definitely has to carry the load now. Dante Demas likely out for the season after a very sad injury against Iowa. We'll see what happens. I think Ohio State takes that one now with the injury to Demas. I do think the offense gets stalled a little bit, but still one to keep an eye on, especially for Talia Tagovailoa, who really struggled against Iowa and needs a bounce-back game. Some other games, Georgia versus Auburn, I think is a huge one. Georgia definitely proven themselves as a top team in college football. Auburn, though, really sort of had a wake-up performance against LSU. Bo Nix, probably one of his better games, 23 for 44, 255 yards and a touchdown with 74 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Auburn has the talent to compete in any game, but Georgia is going to be one of the toughest teams you could ever go against this season. And we'll see what happens in that one. I definitely lean towards Georgia, but we'll see. Notre Dame versus Virginia Tech in a bounce-back game for the Fighting Irish after losing to the Bearcats. Should be a close one. And then LSU versus Kentucky. Kentucky, number 16 in the nation right now after starting out 5-0. There is plenty of potential here for Kentucky to really sort of get into a great spot. If they can win this one, they're 6-0. Let's say they lose to Georgia, but then they have Mississippi State, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, New Mexico State, and Louisville. They could be looking at 11-1. And an 11-1 Kentucky is not something that many people were expecting heading into the season. So definitely a very interesting and high-pressure game for Kentucky if they want to really capitalize on the season and make the most of it. But keep an eye on it because LSU has just as much talent as anyone in the country, really.
Switching gears here in the last few minutes. Not much time left, but I do want to discuss the big game of next week. And that is the Chiefs are hosting the Bills. And the Bills, I think, are going to win this game. And the Chiefs are going to be below 500, again, 2-3 with a lot of good teams in their division. I don't know, Michael, could we start hearing some whispers that the Chiefs won't make the playoffs if they lose that game next Sunday night?
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting one. I would think the Chiefs win it just because they kind of need another win to even out their schedule, kind of get back in the picture, while the Bills, clearly are a dominant team and don't have as much stress on them. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, the Bills have so much firepower that they could very easily go into this one, control it, and then,
right.
The Chiefs are sitting 2-3 with chaos on the mind. But I think both teams make this regardless of outcome. And I think ultimately this is probably going to be an AFC Championship preview.
Josh Gordon will be playing as well, so we'll see what impact he makes. Other than that, the other big game I think is going to be Browns-Chargers based on the results of this evening's matchup. Could be a really good game, I think. Bengals-Packers, huge game for the Bengals there to see how legit they really are. So there's a few good games here this weekend, but there's also a lot of games where you look at it, you know exactly who's going to win. And then you got some games where you're looking at and it's like two bad teams. And it's like, who's going to win, Jets or Falcons? So it's an interesting slate. And we'll certainly be back here next week to break it all down with a recap.
Yeah, we want to thank everyone in the comment section and everyone who tuned in to watch, whether it was on Twitch, YouTube, or Twitter. We appreciate all the support. Share this video with your friends. Let everyone know about the show if they're interested in college football, NFL draft. Hopefully they can find a home with us every Monday and Friday. Again, reminder, no Friday episode because we are going to be busy. I'm moving down to Austin, so this background, last time you'll see it, at least for a while. And then Nick is also busy with some work. So little bit of a busy schedule, so we won't be here on Friday. We'll be back next Monday, though, talk to you about draft risers that are, the stocks rising that we did after week 3 of college football, and we'll have plenty of recap and preview to discuss next week as well. Until then, though, have a great week and weekend. We'll see you Monday. Take care.
Hook 'em, Mike.